At 3:42 p.m., my phone rang. The hospital had already called twice that day. When I saw the number again, I stopped breathing. My daughter's oxygen levels had dropped below 78%. And at that exact moment, my parents were boarding a flight to Hawaii. Let me ask you something. If you had to choose between losing $6,000 or saving your granddaughter's life, would that even be a choice? For my parents, it was. And what happened 4 years later? That's the part they never saw coming. My name is Alyssa Grant. I'm 33 years old. 4 years ago, my husband Daniel died on a Tuesday morning. Black ice. One second he was driving to work, the next, his car wrapped around a guardrail. I was 29 weeks pregnant. By that afternoon, I was in premature labor. By that night, my daughter Harper was born at 2 pounds, 7 ounces. And by the next morning, I was sitting in a hospital office being told I needed $41,000 in 72 hours. Or they would transfer her 2 hours away from the NICU team that knew her lungs were collapsing, away from the only doctors who had stabilized her brain bleed, away from me. The billing coordinator said it softly, like it hurt her to say it. Insurance will cover most of it, but not immediately. We require a payment bridge. A payment bridge. My husband's body wasn't even buried yet, and I needed $41,000 in 3 days. So I did what most people would do. I called my parents. My father is a retired financial advisor. My mother loves to say, family comes first. I believed her. I called 26 times in 48 hours. They answered twice. The first time my mom cried. The second time my dad spoke. He said, "We already paid the final deposit on Hawaii. If we cancel, we lose $6,000. I thought I misheard him. I need $41,000, I said. He replied, exactly. $6,000 won't solve your problem. It's irrational to sacrifice it. I remember staring at the NICU window, Harper's chest rising mechanically, machines breathing for her, and my father explaining financial logic. He ended the call with, "Daniel had life insurance. You'll be fine." Fine. My daughter's oxygen monitor started screaming, and my parents were discussing snorkeling excursions. Here's where most people think the story ends, but this is where it actually begins. Because something shifted inside me that day. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. I sold my wedding ring. I took a job in the hospital cafeteria. I started a fundraiser. Strangers gave more than blood relatives. A retired janitor sent $50 with a note that said, "Babies deserve fighters." I kept that note. By some miracle, grants, emergency Medicaid, charity funds, we made the deadline. Harper stayed. She survived 83 days in the NICU. When she finally came home, she weighed 5 pounds. Still fragile, still on oxygen, but alive. And my parents? They sent a postcard from Maui. "Sunsets here are breathtaking." I didn't reply. I blocked their numbers that night. Fast forward 4 years. Harper is in preschool. She wears tiny pink glasses. She reads better than most kindergartners. She has no memory of ventilators or brain bleeds. I built a quiet life. Small house, steady job and insurance claims. No drama. No parents. Then, one Friday afternoon, my brother Caleb called. We hadn't spoken in years. He said 3 words. They're both gone. Car accident. Highway 12, Outer Banks. Dead on impact. I felt nothing. Until he said the next sentence. There's an estate. Here's the twist. There was no will filed. Under state law, assets split evenly between children. Total estate value? $1.8 million. My half? $900,000. $900,000. More money than I'd ever seen. Money that could erase Harper's medical debt. Money that could secure her future. Money from the same people who chose beach cocktails over her survival. I told Caleb I didn't want it. That's when his tone changed. "There is a will," he said. "It just wasn't filed." He came to see me the next week, sat across from me at a coffee shop, slid a folder over the table, dated 3 months after the Hawaii trip. It left everything to him. I was described as estranged due to emotional instability and financial irresponsibility. Emotional instability? I had been sleeping in a plastic chair next to a ventilator. Financial irresponsibility? I had begged for a loan to save their granddaughter. Caleb said if he submitted the will, I'd get nothing. But if I signed a waiver now, he'd consider giving me $150,000 privately. A clean exit. No court, no public mess. Just sign and disappear. He leaned forward and said something I'll never forget. "If you fight this, people will hear the whole story, including the part where you cut off dying parents." That's when I realized something. This wasn't about money. It was about narrative. He wanted to rewrite history, to paint me as the villain, to make their abandonment my fault. And here's the psychological trap most people fall into. When someone threatens your reputation, you panic. You protect image. You retreat. But I had something he didn't know about. Receipts. Every voicemail. Every declined call. The postcard from Maui. The email where my father wrote, "We cannot justify losing $6,000 over a situation that will resolve itself." Resolve itself. Like Harper was a flat tire. I met with a probate attorney. He said I had a 60% chance of winning, but litigation could cost $80,000, 2 years minimum. Public court filings, depositions, family laundry aired everywhere. Then he asked me one question. What outcome will let you sleep at night? Not what makes the most money, not what's easiest, but what gives you peace. That night, Harper asked me something random. "Mommy, are we poor?" Kids hear more than we think. I said, "No, baby, we're rich in the ways that matter." She nodded, then said, "Good, because I like our house." That's when it hit me. I wasn't fighting for money. I was fighting for truth. Because if I signed that waiver, the official story would forever say, I was unstable. I was unreasonable. I was the problem. And one day Harper might read that. So I filed the contest. Caleb tried to intimidate me, told extended family I was greedy, said I was chasing money from grieving parents. But something unexpected happened. During discovery, financial records surfaced. My father had taken out a $500,000 life insurance policy. 2 weeks after I received Daniel's payout. Beneficiary? Caleb. Reason noted, to protect assets from irresponsible heir. The timing destroyed his credibility. It showed intent. It showed retaliation. It showed that the will wasn't grief, it was punishment. When that came out, Caleb asked to settle. Here's the part most people won't expect. I didn't ask for half. I asked for a structured settlement. $400,000 placed in a trust for Harper. $200,000 donated to the NICU that saved her. The remainder split evenly. Why? Because revenge fades, but legacy lasts. When the judge approved the settlement, he said something interesting. Family disputes often center around money, rarely around principle. He looked at me and added, "You seem clear which this is." Now let me ask you something. If I had taken the $150,000 and stayed silent, would that have made me wiser or smaller? If I had walked away to avoid stress, would that have been peace or avoidance? People love to say, just move on. But sometimes, moving on means letting a lie stand. And I refused to let my daughter grow up believing her mother abandoned family. Because I didn't. They did. Today, Harper is 5. She knows her grandparents died. She doesn't know the rest. One day she will. And when she asks what happened, I'll show her the file. I'll show her the letters. I'll show her that when it mattered most, I fought. Not for money, for dignity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In 2021, my parents chose money over family. In 2025, I chose a legal battle over easy cash. On the surface, that looks similar. But intention changes everything. They chose comfort. I chose accountability. They avoided discomfort. I walked straight into it. There's a difference. And if you've ever been the difficult one in a family, the one who speaks up, the one who refuses to play along, you know how lonely that road feels. But silence has a cost too. And sometimes that cost is your self-respect. So if you're watching this and you're in a moment where someone is rewriting your story, someone is using money to control the narrative,
someone is calling you irrational for demanding basic decency, pause.
Ask yourself, what outcome lets you look in the mirror 5 years from now? Not what's easiest, not what's fastest. What lets you stand tall? Because here's what I learned. Peace isn't always quiet. Sometimes peace is loud. Sometimes peace looks like court filings. Sometimes peace looks like saying, no, that's not what happened. If you were me, would you have signed the waiver? Would you have taken the quick payout? Or would you have fought? I genuinely want to know. Because stories like this don't have clean answers. They have consequences. And we all choose which consequences we can live with. My name is Alyssa Grant. I was 29 weeks pregnant when my world collapsed. I was told $41,000 stood between my daughter and survival. My parents chose Hawaii. 4 years later, I chose justice. And whatever anyone thinks about that, I sleep just fine.